Hey everyone! I want to apologize in advance for this project not really being holiday themed, but next week definitely will, and hopefully by next year I will be more organized and can actually do a whole month of holiday goodness. But anyway, back to this week's project. A few months ago, I saw a piece of clothes that I really fell for. It was the embroidered crane sweater from the Altuzara collection from Target. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's just a simple black sweater with crane detail on each shoulder. Initially, I was just overcome with the desire to own that sweater right there. I wanted it, I needed it, but after having it sit in my shopping cart for a little while, I kind of talked myself into perhaps making one of my own. At first, I was just going to kind of copy the design and do something similar, but then after a while I was thinking, well, why don't I come up with my own design? I still wanted it to have wings because I think that aesthetically that just looked nice, but why couldn't I do some other type of bird? Or not even a type of bird? And I started playing with the idea of maybe doing something like a dinosaur, since they have discovered dinosaurs that have wings. I thought that that would look pretty cool. My plan was to embroider it onto tulle instead, to make sort of an embroidered applique that I would then, after I was finished embroidering everything, I would attach it to the sweater. I have an example of something I did a while ago. It's not thread embroidery like I was planning to do on this project, but here's an example of what I was thinking about doing. Obviously this still has all the tulle attached. When you're ready to attach this to a piece of clothes, you would cut around the shape. But this is just to show you my little experiment. I then saw some of Michelle Carragher's work. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. And she does the embroidery work for the costumes on Game of Thrones and some other TV shows and movies. She embroiders not only with thread, but she uses beads and jump rings and feathers sometimes. It's pretty cool. I highly recommend you checking out her work if you're interested in that sort of thing. She has a lot of up-close photos of the costumes and her embroidery work, and they're all amazing. And I ended up being totally inspired by her style of embroidery. You'll see I incorporated jump rings and beads into this. So basically for this week, I'm just going to show you how to embroider straight onto tulle. And hopefully that would help you guys out on any similar projects that you would like to do. To make an embroidered applique piece, you'll need an embroidery hoop, thread, other embellishments like beads or jump rings, your design. You can see here the first applique design that I did for this project. A marker or pen, scissors, water-soluble fabric, tulle. I'm using black since I'll be sewing these onto a black sweater, Mod Podge. Cut a piece of water-soluble fabric big enough for your design and for your embroidery hoop. Do the same for the black tulle. Take the water-soluble fabric piece and trace your design onto it. Take the hoop apart, place the middle section of the hoop down, place the tulle and water-soluble fabric onto that, push the outer hoop on top and lightly tighten it. You don't want to tighten too much just yet, just enough to hold the fabric in place and keep it in place. You can see here that my water-soluble fabric was a tiny bit too small for this hoop, so I did some rough stitches around the edge just to keep it in place. Lightly tug around the hoop until the fabric is taut, and then finish tightening up the hoops. Now you're ready to embroider. So I'm not really going to go into depth on my techniques because I didn't really know what I was doing. I just sort of went with what felt right to me. According to my research afterwards, I ended up doing a mix of stem stitches, detached chain stitches, and split stitches for this design. I'm not 100% sure if that's correct, and if I am wrong at all, please let me know and I'll add an annotation or something to correct myself. My design was a bit too large to fit completely in the hoop, so when I was almost completely done, I had to open the hoop up, readjust the design to fit the unfinished portion, and then finish it off. Once I was completely done, I took it out of the hoop and admired my work. Then, I panicked and started to worry that once I washed out the water-soluble fabric, I'd lose some detail of the design. So, my solution for that was to paint a layer of Mod Podge onto the back of the piece to seal the thread ends and whatnot. It's important to use Mod Podge specifically for this rather than Elmer's glue because once dry, Mod Podge is not water soluble, so when you go to wash whatever article of clothing you put this applique on later, the glue won't wash away. It's probably unnecessary. In fact, the beaded embroidery that I showed you earlier, I didn't Mod Podge the back and it was just fine. I just wanted to make absolute sure that this design was going to stay in place after I worked on it for so long. So if you go this route, let the Mod Podge dry overnight, and then once dry, you can remove most of the water-soluble fabric. It should tear off pretty easily. In fact, some spots on mine were already starting to tear off just from me manhandling it towards the end. Cut the excess tulle off, leaving about 1/8 of an inch on the whole design. If you weren't able to remove all of the water-soluble fabric, now's the time to run it under some water and rub at those spots that still have the water-soluble fabric clinging on. It'll dissolve away. Let it dry, and there's your applique. Use it however you desire. For me, that was to sew them onto a sweater. So I nabbed a sweater from the thrift store that was perfect for this, and I found some matching black thread to sew it on. I figured out the placement I wanted and pinned them down onto the sweater. Then I simply just sewed them on. And here it is. I hope you all enjoyed this project. If you liked this video and you want to see more, please subscribe. I post videos every Thursday. You can follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, or Instagram. And if you try this project or any of my previous projects, I would love to see photos. You can just send those to any of the social media accounts that I just listed. And if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next week. I would love to see photos. Oh, yeah? I still wanted it to have wings.